In this tutorial we'll be going over how to create a Christmas tree using the JZTree toolkit. First off, this is the scene. I have generated a few decorations as well. Here is a little ball and a star. We'll be using these to attach to the tree a little bit later on. So first off, let's dive into let's create a fresh one actually. Just a geo node. I'm going to call this just build tree. Yep. Down inside, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a JZT trunk gen node. In the general tab under height, we're going to leave it at 10. We're going to go over it all the way over to meshing. We're going to change the mesh scale to 1.55. And then we're going to change this ramp here because we don't want it to be this thick. We want it to be kind of skinny up to about here. I'm going to actually change this all to B-spline so we get a nice curve. Okay. A little bit more. There we go. Down the bottom here under this end cap type, we're going to leave it at grid, but we're going to change this end cap scale to 0.35, and that's just going to flatten off the bottom just here a little bit because we don't want that bulbous shape. This is a little bit too big there. I'm going to just drop this down a little bit so it tapers off a bit better. Just looking at it now. Yeah, that's pretty good. Now we're going to go up to displacement, enable that, and I'm going to set the amplitude to 4.7. Great, and I'm actually going to leave the rest of this information here just at default for the time being. Last off, let's go to the resolution tab, and I'm going to set the columns to 24. And you'll see this decrease the amount. Then a lot of this is going to get hidden in the rest of the tree, so not to worry too much about this, but I actually want some more resolution on the segments, so I'm going to set that to 36. Great. Now the next thing we're going to do, we're going to create a JZT branch gen. Okay, so now we want to wire up the geometry to the geometry and the skeleton to the skeleton, and I'm going to flag it. Now we've generated a number of branches here. Now we need to set these to generate around circles, just like a normal Christmas tree would do. So first off, I'm going to go over to the scatter node, the scatter tab just here, and I'm going to change the gen type to interval. And you can see it's generated a bunch of branches around each segment. And we have a amount of, at the moment, 6. So I actually want a lot, so I'm going to change this to 30. And I'm going to leave this at 5. Now I also don't want to be generating these all the way at the bottom, so over here on the branch ramp, I'm going to first off change this to constant, the interpolation. Bring it forward, drop this down, and I want to set this to probably about here. I'm also going to change my relax radius from 2 to 1. I play with these a bunch of times. I found 2 works for a lot of the general cases, but sometimes if this is kind of not working great, just change that back to maybe 1. Cool, and I also want to do a little bit at the tip, just pull it down just a little bit. Next we're going to go over to the rand position tab, still under the scatter one, and I'm going to change the rand y to 1.97. Great. I'm going to pull this a little forward, and I'm just going to set this to about there. Next we're going to go over to the length tab, and we're going to set the branch length to 3.5 and the random value to 0.19. I'm going to expand this part here. I'm going to create another little point just at the end, and I want to set that last tab there to a value of 0.2. Now we're already starting to see we're getting the kind of the Christmas tree shape, everything kind of going up. Next off, we're going to go over to the orientations tab just here, and we're going to change the yaw to -27. And we only want really the tips to be doing this kind of shape and yaw. So we're going to go down to the ramp again, and we're just going to pull this in and pull it down to maybe probably about just there. Next we're going to go to the roll tab, and we're just going to have a bit of randomization to kind of how this all sits. So I'm going to do this just 10. Just a little bit, nothing too much. Next we're going to go to the noise tab. I'm going to enable it. We're going to set an amplitude to 0.85. And you're going to see it broke this all up a little bit here, just these lines. Another thing too is we're going to just adjust this noise profile here, and we're just going to turn this up all the way so it can affect the the tips as well, and the rest is we're just going to leave blank. Next we're going to go over to the meshing tab just here, and we're going to go to the thickness, and we're going to change the thickness from 1 to 0.3. Following, we're going to leave the rest of this all at default. Next we're just going to move over to the extension. So what this does is it'll grab the last generation and it's going to add another branch at this very tip. So say you have a trunk or a branch and you extend it, this is where you do it. So I'll take up the extension of the branches and I want to set that length to 0.75. Cool. Following, I'm going to go to the resolution tab. I'm going to set this, leave this as 16. I'm going to change this to 12. Now we need the next level of branches, so we're going to create another JZT branch generation. We're going to let it load. Cool. Geometry to geometry, skeleton to skeleton, and we're going to wire it up like that. Now next, we're going to go back in the new generation here. We're going to go to scatter, gen, and we're going to set it to opposite, and you'll see now it's creating exactly 5 branches on every branch, one opposite of each other. Now we don't actually want this to be an exact number with every branch, because these top ones here, you can see it's getting really dense up the top here, while here it's kind of nice and low. So to fix that, what we can do is we can turn off the force total count and we can use this count scale instead. Now that samples the length of the branch and it will tell it to use a density attribute and generate an amount based on that length. So on that count scale, I'm going to set that to 10. Let it load. Sweet. Next, I'm going to go to the rand position, just here, and set this to 0.65. And you'll see it'll break it up. So now all the opposites aren't quite sitting next to each other, they're a little bit broken up. Following, we're going to go to the length tab, just here. We're going to set it to 0.5 and add a randomness of 0.1. Now I also want to be tapering these ones as they get higher. So on that last point there, I'm going to set that value just here to a value of 0.6. And now you can see the higher this goes, this height ramp length, it takes the parameter used from the original trunk or the general height of the tree, and it goes, oh, so we're going to make this at the highest point of the tree a little smaller, because normally this ramp length will use the previous generation. So this one allows you to kind of grab the global tree height and adjust it that way. Following, we're going to go to the orientations tab just here. I'm going to go to the seed. I'm going to change this to 0.075. I'm going to go to yaw. I'm going to set this to negative 57.5, and the interval opposite randule I'm going to set to negative 20. Sorry, negative 26. On the ramp yaw as well, I'm going to create a little bit of a ramp, and this very first one here, I'm just going to set this to 0.31. Cool. Following, I'm going to go over to the roll tab just here. I'm going to increase the round opposite just to 50. Now you'll see it's just broken all up its directional up a little bit. A nice value. Next, we can go to the noise tab. I'm going to enable it, and we're going to set it to 0.56. And again, we're going to leave everything as default just for now. Next, we'll go to the meshing tab, thickness, and we're going to set this to 0.25. It's going to be nice thin pieces just sticking off here. Great. Next step is we're going to go to the resolutions tab, and we're going to set this to just a columns of 4 and a segment of 6. That's the end of the initial tutorial. We've just gone over how to use some of the modeling toolkit. The next step we'll be showing off is how to use the instancer node and create some leaves, and then attach those pieces of decoration to our tree as well for later deformation.